Hello and welcome here, everyone. We are excited to be underway with the final week of the regular season here with the ADL. My name is Orbital. With me is Quacks, and we'll be your casters for this evening. Quacks, how you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. I wasn't able to make last week, Orbital. Sorry about that. Sorry to everyone who was watching, but I'm better now. We're back. And for the last week of the regular season, Orbital, it all culminates down to this. Teams that are barely just missing out on the playoffs, this is their last chance. And for teams that have locked themselves into the playoffs, this is their last chance to improve those seedings so they get a better road going into the playoffs. And in the case of our last week of the regular season, Orbital, it is the latter. We have got Akuma Scimitars and the Forgotten Spire both sitting at a 3-1 series score. The winner here likely either going to get first or second in the Targon division, and the loser most likely going to be in that third spot. So playoffs guaranteed, but wanting to improve their road to potentially make a deep run going into the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Actually, currently in the Targon standings, there is a three-way tie for first place, as every single team in the top three currently has the exact same match record, which is a 3-1 series score, as well as a 7-3 game score with the head-to-head. So all of them are sitting at a +4, meaning that these games do hold a lot of weight. Let's go ahead and talk about the players that'll be stepping up here as we take a look at Akuma Scimitars. Sang Juni will be in the top lane. POA, of course, Pillar of Autumn in the jungle. Martian in the mid lane. Kite at ADC, and Kraydog at support.
Yeah, but Akuma, every time you see this organization compete in whatever it is that you're watching, right, whether it be Blue Water, whether it be Titan, whether it be Aegis, you can always expect these guys to put up some results. And that is what we are expecting from them. We wouldn't expect any less, Orbital. They just had a team go into those open qualifiers that are still up and running. A team no longer in the OQs, but still, this organization has come a really long way because of the proven results of leagues like this, and they're looking to add one more ring to their already ostensive and extensive collection. So I'm excited to see what this team is capable of. Really interested to see how the players fare, because these are, relatively unrecognized names, at least for me, Orbital. Really, the only name that I recognize on this list is their sub, Zhao Pipi. So him likely not playing means that this team, the players in particular, unknown, but the organization definitely well known.
Of course, and they're hoping to bring that knowledge and expertise, maybe some of the unknown names, to the spotlight, and that's what we'll be seeing here tonight. On the other side, it's the Forgotten Spire. We have Texture Ace in the top lane, we have Smacker in the jungle, Blix in the mid lane, Josh N at ADC, and then SSG Caboose rounding it out at support, a squad that of course will show the names up here shortly, but again holding their own in front, as I believe those are the not the correct names.
I was confused. So it's Jolts, Phoenix Flare, Quality Player.
Oh, Arcadius. Did I pull the wrong? I might have pulled wrong.
Potentially, it happens. But this roster, I'm really interested to see what they're capable of, because unlike, Akuma Scimitars, I recognize some of these names, Orbital, right? Like Quality Player. I have known this guy, or I've been casting this guy since I started casting. Arcadius, I have been, seeing this guy's name around since I was a player. So that was years ago. So it's going to be cool to see, some of these more experienced names potentially, make another deep run, potentially get another division in their clutches. But let's go back a little bit, Orbital, to talking about the stakes for this series. So like we have said, the winner of this most likely going to get either first or second. But the crucial thing is it's a three-way tie, and that means head-to-head matters. So let's say Akuma win here, right? They get a 2-0. That means that they will get first place because they won the head-to-head against the other team that is 3-1, High Alert Nightmares. But the Forgotten Spire, if they were to win here, it would mean that the Forgotten Spire, if the Forgotten Spire were to win here, it would mean High Alert Nightmares, who won that head-to-head, would be getting first place. Akuma would be at third place then. So it's a battle for the first, second, and third position. And this is, of course, also just assuming High Alert Nightmares win their series here tonight. But let's get back to focusing on this one, Orbital. The band's already underway.
Yeah, listen, I may forget the players, but the players sure don't forget the players because, of course, they know exactly what they want to ban away the Nocturne and the Lulu. I mean, Akuma Scimitars saying, hey, we don't want to give that power to it over. And then a heavy influx into that mid lane, really focusing on margin in there, saying, hey, we really don't want to give you a really nice, comfortable mid lane. And this shows a lot of control. The Syndra and the Hui, well known in their control factors. They love taking over lanes, or at least I would say team fight aspects. So taking a lot of those opportunities away. But then the Pantheon drafting and taking away the possibility of that straight up point and click CC.
Yep, and there are a ton of power picks still left open and available here, Orbital. The Corki, the Ambessa, the newly pronged and prone Darius Jungle is also really running rampant in solo queue. I don't know how much League of Legends you've played over the past week, but that pick is super popular. Varus is also super duper strong, one of the very staple AD carries in the meta. You really can never go wrong with the Varus. He's super duper versatile with whatever support he's paired up with. You can get him Engage, you can get him an Enchanter. It really does not matter. So I'm excited to see what we have in store for us, with Kite being the guy that's going to pilot this. Now, the Forgotten Spire, I would imagine probably going to respond with an AD carry of their own. There is obviously that Corki, there's that Jinx, there's that Ashe, right? If you want to play into the advantage, Jinx might be your best bet, so they're going to do just that.
I like the fact that they didn't go straight for a support. You're still kind of baiting that one out. Instead, you want to get a really comfortable top laner for Jolts and say, hey, let's go ahead and put you on that strength in there. And so they go ahead and draft that for Akuma Scimitars. Now you go ahead and say, okay, how are we going to play this one? How are we actively going to counter this Cassandra? Are we going to leave you alone? Are we going to go ahead and grab the jungle and maybe the mid? Because already, we didn't even mention that the Ahri banned away as well. So Margin already got 3 ban. Maybe you don't want to worry about that 4 ban coming in.
Yep, and it looks like Akuma going to go with the Nars. They're going to maybe try and play on the Cassante's lack of range. Another kind of top lane counter pick that has been really popular is that Garen, but against something like a Jinx, you're prone to getting kited, so I actually like that they didn't go for that. So it seems like a very team fight focused comp going forward. Now, I'm curious to see where they're going to pivot into either the mid lane or the jungle, and it looks like the mid lane is the choice. The Cho'Gath mid nerfed pretty extensively in the most recent patch, Orbital. 3 spells got hit with damage nerfs, but the strat is still viable. It is still active. I've still seen a ton of teams like to run this, and it is still very useful if you know what to do with it. So in the hands of someone like Marzian, I really like to see this pick go forward. I think this also gives you a ton of objective control, and by extension, it really is good with linking up with the junglers to guarantee that you get a lot of those neutrals. So now my question is, what are we going to see in that jungle position as TFS round us out with a Nami pick?
Yeah, this is, I will say there's another spot where I've seen the Cho'Gath go actually over in the EU, which is in jungle, but it is much more niche in there. So I will actually lean into what you were talking about. The Margin Cho'Gath in the mid lane makes sense, and it heavily implies that the Nami might be up on the chopping block. The Jinx might be in for a rough time, and of course the Silence can also be played, but obviously we mentioned if you don't grab that mid, well, you're okay with that one. Now you get to focus on that bot lane. Because the Nami was locked in, you get to ban out the Renata Glass, which is going to be a straight counter if it were allowed against the likes of a Jinx, against the likes of a Cassante, so you really don't want that. But there is the one that you mentioned, Quacks. You mentioned it all the way at the beginning. You can't let that Darius through.
Nope, you definitely can't. So it seems like the support and jungle pools are being targeted here, just the remaining positions that have not been grabbed on up. I'm really interested to see, though, at least on the side of the Forgotten Spire, we don't have any magic damage on this team, right? Obviously, you know, you're looking at that Jinx to be the main bread and butter. You want to play kind of a protect the puppy style, but you also really just want that magic damage. So Akuma are going to briefly hit on that with the Gwen ban. You could throw something in the jungle that, you know, points toward a potential, you know, magic damage threat. Things like the Lilia are really popular. Things like the Nidalee are really popular. You can always go for those. They require a little bit more setup to make work, and they could take away from the attention and gold that the Jinx needs, but they are options for you to go for. Instead, they're just going to lock down the Vi, so still no magic damage, Orbital. Almost certainly we are going to see a top laner, or rather not a top laner, but a mid laner be thrown into that AP niche.
Oh, and there it is. Okay, so I have a feeling this is, unless this is a support Mel, which we could also see come out here.
That's possible.
a blind pick Mel in this situation doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'll be honest. If that's mid lane, because you take a look, a lot of people have started to figure out the Mel strats. You know, how do you deal with it? I mean, you can't really reflect a cease and desist coming in on you, but I would be pretty funny on that one. But we are still waiting to see. It is locked in here, so if that's going support, we will identify that here. Whether this is a jungle pickup and that is a Cho'Gath mid, or we see a mid lane blind. And it's a Seraphine, so yeah. So this is actually a Cho'Gath jungle, maybe a Seraphine support. Now I got to figure out where the Mel goes.
Well, I mean, that's a whole. I would imagine that is probably going to be a Mel mid lane, right? So we're going to see Seraphine Varus in the bot lane, Mel in the mid lane. You know, obviously there is room for that, but now the question becomes, okay, what's going to be the mid laner here? You've got a lot of good ultimates to steal, so I actually could see Silas working, or maybe you want to go for some of that range. The Victor, this has been a really popular pick as of late in the mid lane, especially when you don't necessarily know what you're going against, right? We talked a little bit about the flexibility between the Mel and the Seraphine, and just having that range will always be really nice, especially in a vacuum, right? Because you don't know that matchup, so you have that range to be able to kind of play it out, tread lightly, and overall, you've got that scaling, right? You are the sole AP threat as this Victor, so you, as the Forgotten Spire, you need something that scales, you need something that can go into the late game. My biggest worry always, though, with Victor is getting that flash burned early, because Orbital, we've seen it so many times on the cast, not just in Aegis, but everywhere else where we've been able to cover a Victor. Burns flash early, pushes up too far. It's easy pickings for the jungler, dies, it gets put super far behind, never gets to scale, and cries himself to sleep. That has been a tale as old as time, and I really want to see the Forgotten Spire play around this mid lane smartly if they decide to give this Victor any resources in the early phase of the game.
I'd agree with that one. I mean, I also expect to see a Cho'Gath in that mid lane if you know, the Forgotten Spire do not give proper respect over, because that is a straight up feast stack for the Aegis. The Cho'Gath, as I mentioned, in the jungle is so weird. You do scale up, you do get, you know, some punch, but it's such a weird thing to see a Cho'Gath just running around, blazing a trail through the jungle. So I've yet to see how well it's going to excel. Again, as I mentioned before, it was a very niche pick against a Vi, though, because again, the Vi was picked afterwards. Now with the Vi, I want to ask you for the Forgotten Spire, how do you deal with this Cho'Gath? Is it going to be a specific thing, or do you just say, hey, let them do their thing and we'll gank instead?
I mean, Vi has, you know, the denting blow, so being able to, you know, kind of shred that armor down, give the Jinx in particular an easy time to whittle down the squishier Cho'Gath because of that will certainly help the backline deal damage. My biggest concern, though, in regards to the Vi Orbital is what is following up with the Vi, right? I mean, you look at Akuma, they've got really only one primary engager, which is the Gnar, but they've got the range to back him up, right? They've got the Seraphine ultimate, they've got the Mel's range, they've got the Varus's range, right? The Chains of Corruption could always be really useful to back up any engages this Gnar might go for. The Vi, though, really only has like the tidal wave and potentially the Cassante on a flank. So it's going to be really, I think, up to Phoenix Flare to reel in some of that aggression. Realize that if you go in and you aren't aware that your team can't easily follow you up, you're going to die. Your team won't really have a tank that can peel for this backline except for the Cassante. And especially around these neutrals, your team won't have a jungler, right? So your team is going to be forced to give that neutral up and allow this Mel, allow this Seraphine, what have you, on the side of Akuma Scimitars to scale. So really understanding when to go in is going to be a crucial part of the Forgotten Spire's game plan. And if they aren't careful, they could find themselves shut out of this game very quickly, Orbital.
Oh, and it is identified that this is going to be a Mel in the mid lane, so we'll obviously have to see how that one plays out. Yeah, okay, so this is going to be the sub roaming in here, and well, we say roaming in, but that'll give us a nice little idea. So Zhao PP playing this Cho'Gath and trying to bring a little bit of flair into the stage. I mean, this is still a best of 3 at the end of the day, so we'll have to wait and see how well it goes down. Honestly, we're going to give the players a little bit of time to kind of figure out exactly what's going on, make sure their memories are set, because good lord, I know I need a memory reset at this point. We'll see how Akuma Scimitars and the Forgotten Spire play out here in their matchup to try and claim first place here in the Targon division of the ADL. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
日本にはまだある？
急がないと在庫があるのはそこだ。遅かった。そう そのフィギュアを一つだけ譲ってくれんやろか。
お前はんだよ、同志じゃねえか。もちろん取引しようや。
ありがとう全マーケット。
Now. I'm joking. All right, here we go. We got eyes everywhere as the mini map is all set. Oh, okay. Now we get small mini map. All right, that's fair. Listen, we're on to the map for Akuma, Scimitars, and the Forgotten Spire as they are running game number 1 in a little bit unexpected twist. You go ahead and got Kite in the ADC role, but we got Zhao PP on the Cho'Gath, and you were talking about this player. Hey, stepping in now, so a little bit more familiar face in the scene.
Yeah, I mean, Zhao PP, I should have known as soon as I saw the Cho'Gath locked in for the jungle that this was him. He loves to play these more unorthodox picks in the jungle. That and Lee Sin are really what I know him for. He's got some really monstrous Lee Sin performances. So something we could see possibly later on in this series. But now we're going to focus on the here and now. And that Cho'Gath jungle, like you said, Orbital, not only is it in an unorthodox role that we don't normally see it, but it's also rocking that phase rush. So this is going to be one fast void monster.
I am kind of curious. We already see a chance at a late invade here, and they do move through. It was spotted out by Arcadius, so a little bit more information given. Yep. Now they go ahead and are they okay? They get the ward at least, and they are going to trade out buffs and heavy lean on the vision though. Akuma Scimitars, they're not looking to just trade buffs; they're looking to straight up 3 buff it. Look at this.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually really like this coming out from Akuma. Vi, a champion that really wants to get this Jinx ahead. You know, sisters got to be there for each other, but the Vi isn't going to be there for the Jinx now that the game has essentially devolved into the junglers, forcing a vertical jungle. You can actually see Zhao PP is saying, all right, I am going to go for the wolves first instead of the Gromp. I'm looking to take this entire quadrant, but the question sort of becomes, what does he do after he takes this quadrant? You can see that Kraydog and Kite, both really aggressive in the lane. They're already trying to push this Jinx Nami under their tower, so there isn't really going to be a gank opportunity there. So it kind of becomes, do you want to recall? Do you want to go to your own quadrant and potentially save it from Phoenix Flare trying to take it? Or do you maybe want to go back to your own bot side quadrant? The question and the opportunity is there is, hold on, Arcadius.
All right, a little bit of damage. You're still healing up. You didn't, you burned the barrier, so at least that's gone. But now you got to look at a tower dive here. As again, remember, Zhao PP hasn't left that bottom side.
Tower dives are nerfed though, Orbital.
Yeah.
Tower dives are nerfed.
Well, we'll see what happens because that's a very, very low Arcadius, and it's an easy first blood picked up, but the tower shots are doing a lot of work. Kite having to burn the barrier, and here comes Phoenix Flare. Phoenix Flare says, yo, but the knockup does work, and there's no flash around, so Phoenix Flare isn't going to get the help that they need. Another rupture lands. Heal. Everyone, get them all out of there. The saving Private Ryan has been done. Another rupture, 3 in a row. Zhao PP giving us a taste of what we're like to see. Kite with first blood.
And that was a beautiful, pixel perfectly played dive by the Akuma Scimitars, and furthermore, Kite is the one that gets the gold, so the Varus snowballing already underway. The silver lining, I suppose, for the Forgotten Spire, the flash not burned by Arcadius, so the Jinx still having that safety net. But what a beautiful play from the Akuma Scimitars to start us off in this series, Orbital.
I loved every single moment of that, and it was well documented straight from the first invade. Arcadius saw Zhao PP roaming in, and even with the wards later placed on, the identification quality player couldn't really identify that, hey, you know, the Cho'Gath was still in that top side, was still in their own side, and the Forgotten Spire just kind of ate that one up and said, okay, hey, we lost out our bot lanes a little bit further behind. Arcadius still has Slash, by the way, didn't burn it under the tower, which I think is fair at that point, but you go ahead and say it's one kill. It's not the end of the world. If we let it get to us, though, then it will be. So we go back to laning. You see, you see saying Junie just going ahead trying to farm up. Mid lane, Margin is also doing quite well, and in the bot side, that CS lead will continue to grow.
Yeah, for sure. Kite coming back with the recurve bow, and you can see Kraydog unafraid just walking up to try and get some poke on this Seraphine. We were expecting an aggressive lane to come out here for the Akuma Scimitars. Really, that bot lane is what we're focused on, as a little bit of attention paid toward the top side. This is just kind of how things are going to go for Jolton. Him being able to, you know, be relatively on the same plane of CS as this Gnar certainly means that I think he's doing well for himself. Also storing up those cookies, so plenty of in-lane sustain here for him to just be able to tank up a lot of the damage that this Gnar will do in the early phases of the game.
At the current moment is also allowing Zhao PP to kind of roam wherever they wish. Take a look at the CS differentials here. It's only about a camp, but you saw how quickly Zhao PP was willing to walk in and start taking control of those Raptors. And I think Phoenix Slayer is actually on the reactive end of this, just trying to claim their bot side of the jungle and just saying, okay, do I actually have to deal with Zhao PP right now? I'm not exactly in the most amazing spot. If I get the dub, I mean, it's a 2 longsword versus what, a little bit of burning on the other side. So, you know, you could try and bring it about, but do you really want to? I think is a big question.
A little bit of burning. The faded ashes are not to be underestimated, Orbital.
True.
As it looks like Phoenix Flare is not to be underestimated. Here the Vi comes.
Good flash out of the bubble. That is going to be a little bit of a hit, but Kite is already well underneath the tower, which means this is just kind of free damage back. You even get the root behind, so that's about a good 3. Oh my gosh. Good tag by Kite, forcing the likes of Phoenix Flare out of that lane.
And not only does it chunk the Vi out, but it also prevents the Vi from potentially looking for this dragon. They have to probably imagine that Zhao PP, with the prio he has in the top and mid, is on those grubs, and you now are going to be forced to trade back. So we will see the Vi go on that dragon, but has to call up that bot lane, will give Kite and Kraydog an opportunity to push out this bot lane, get a reset, and maybe they don't even want to do that. Maybe they want to fight it here, Orbital.
I'd be a little bit worried about this one. Take a look how quickly everyone is roaming down from Akuma Scimitars. The Scimitars are about to slice right through, but the dragon should be taken. It is smited away, and now you got to turn around because Arcadius might be able to pop off here. You're going to try to turn around, but there's no ult, and now a quick twist in as Margin is going to be rooted up here. Everyone landing inside of that stasis, and unfortunately, that's a loss for Akuma Scimitars, but for the Forgotten Spire, they get the dragon plus a kill.
Yeah, so they are going to pick up that objective, trade it from the Grubs as well. So it's an objective apiece for both of these teams. And it just kind of felt like an overforce a little bit there from Kite and Kraydog, right? I mean, you aren't in a position to really go there. You don't have the priority to do so. You don't have the numbers to do so, right? Quality player was able to roam down toward that river before Marzen was able to do something. Had it been the other way around, the play might have been justified, but you were outnumbered, you were outgunned. Kite did not have his flash, and they are the ones that end up going down. And the Forgotten Spire, like you said, Orbital, still gonna get that dragon. So the stacking has begun. And with a comp like this, I imagine they're happy about getting those dragons, right? We talk about the team fighting, we talk about the scaling, getting that late game win con up as soon as possible. Certainly going to be a good look here for TFS.
Oh, 100%. And not only that, it's going to be primarily for Arcadius. I mentioned before that they were able to pop off and get an assist there. There's still a decent chunk behind. They had to opt into the early Berserker Greaves just to have a little extra move speed, just to get a little extra on the attack speed and just try and farm up here. So it makes sense that you would be very comfortable with this dragon take. But where will the rest of the map break out to? Xiao PP is already roaming in to the enemy side jungle yet again. It has not stopped. Xiao PP has basically been invading every single chance they get. Great bubble though on the bot side, so we get to see Kraydog take a little extra damage, but Kite's more than willing to fight back. They're still only level 5 though, but the junglers are actually going to meet, which is going to cause a little bit of tension in there. Xiao PP does have flash, so they're able to wander their way out on the top side. We are watching Jolts and saying now fight, but that's going to be the catch. Nice cease and desist, and to the bubble, and Arcadius picks up one and is now getting a little bit excited. Kraydog doesn't have flash, doesn't have heal, doesn't have anything, and Arcadius is gifted a second.
Yep, so 2 kills going over to the Jinx off of the back of potentially an overextension there from Xiao PP. It really feels like Akuma Scimitars in the past few minutes, you know, starting with that dragon play by AKM's bot side, are just trying to be really aggressive, trying to put TFS in an uncomfortable spot, but they themselves are really leaving themselves exposed. They aren't really able to back up some of these plays because they don't have the numbers, they don't have the priority, and now they're starting to not have the gold. 2 kills over to that Jinx means that despite the CS advantage for Kite, it's now Arcadius that leads the lane in gold. This Jinx snowball has begun, Orbital. And AKM, if they don't reel it in a little bit, they could make a bad situation worse, but they have a chance to potentially amend their previous plays. The Grubs will be up in less than a minute. You can see both top laners are fighting around this area, so controlling that side of the map going to be pivotal in these next few seconds.
I think one of the downside is saying Juni actually just went mega, which means it's going to take a little bit more time for it to stack up. I believe Grubs should be up, as you were mentioning, in another 30, but it's still going to take some time. Saying Juni, I think if they meet down, we'll be in a little bit of mini Gnar before the major battle. So at this point, Jolt's still forced under tower and just like, okay, I can't really deal with this right now, so I'll just try and clear out the wave, lose another plate. So gold so far, even though they're behind in kills, Akuma Scimitars have been able to keep themselves well within that range. Grubs are up, no tests yet by Phoenix Slayer, so it does seem to be kind of handed over to Akuma Scimitars on that Grub fight.
Yeah, I mean, Quality player had to go for the reset. This Victor doesn't have that teleport, Orbital, so he wasn't able to get back wrestle control of that mid lane priority, meaning they'll have to give up that neutral. They're not even going to try and snag away one. They are just going to try potentially influence the spot lane, which is fighting.
Oh, and not only that, huge poke there. Pac having to burn the heal and flash just to stay alive, but Arcadius was a big benefactor as they have full HP and then some, and Kite ate a majority share of the return damage, so really big heads up play. And with Quality player actually moving down, it does force him off the tower. So once again, the Forgotten Spire starting to press their advantages with this kind of late game scaling composition.
Yup, and now they're gonna walk back up, and Arcadius and Poke 808, they managed to get a plate, almost get two, but that's just kind of the cost of not having any Grubs orbital, right? You don't have as much pressure on the turrets. You don't have the ability to funnel this gold further into the Jinx because of that lack of the, damage on the turrets. So we are going to see this Jinx, get a ton of plates. As good play there by Sangjuni.
Yep. I think Sangjuni was hoping to hit Mega a little bit earlier and maybe force Jolts into the wall, maybe even burn the flash, but Jolts very readily burning that ultimate and saying, no, we're not going to deal with that today. It's an ult for ult trade, or ult for HP trade, as Dragon is now started up on the other side. So for the Forgotten Spire, they go ahead and claim their due rewards, and now they're going to fight over the Mountain Soul, a dragon that, may not be the biggest benefactor, but having that extra shield might feel kind of nice.
Oh, it's certainly going to feel nice, especially for this backline, right? Arcadius is going to love that. Quality player is going to love that. I think everyone Orbital likes the Dragon Soul, right? You can't not like Mountain, in my opinion. It's always nice to have, but and recently there was a stat put out there by DPM on Twitter that compared the win rates of two things of Grubs and zero dragons to two dragons and things of zero Grubs, right? So kind of the big argument, the big debate amongst a lot of analysts and players on which one is better. Statistically, having two dragons does net you a higher chance of winning the game. So TFS, maybe that's the advantage they were looking for, right? Maybe that is the mental boost that they needed in order to take control of this game. But, ignoring stats for a bit, having two dragons on a Jinx, on a scaling comp, always going to feel nice nonetheless.
Oh, 100% and then some. I do want to point out right now there's a heavy lean towards the fact that Phoenix Slayer is behind in the camp counts. So the set objective might actually lean into Zhao PP's pocket. You take a look at the fact that they are losing out every single time on these buffs, and it's becoming a rough stand. Zhao PP is yet just a few away from upgrading their jungle companion, I should say. They're sitting on 5 camps left, and so it's not great positioning on either end, but it is something to keep track of as we move closer and closer towards this dragon spawning.
Sure, and I mean, them kind of taking control of that top side means that Phoenix Flare is forced toward that bot lane, and you can see just how much vision TFS have around that river. It should be really easy for this Vi to potentially circumvent the vision of Akuma Scimitar's bot side and maybe look for a play onto this Varus and onto this Seraphine. That turret is also really low. You can already see the plan might already be set in motion. We can see Quality is roaming there.
Yep. And I think it might be met with yet again Kite and Kraydog understanding what's going on. Multiple wards in and around that bot lane make it very difficult for a sneak attack to occur, which I appreciate quite a bit. Zhao PP though stepping up with that Leandri's completed and then armored steel cap. So this is going to be a slightly annoying Cho'Gath to deal with. Phoenix Flare for their own Sundered Sky in pocket. I'm curious to see how this goes, but right now this is a catch on Margin as Margin realizes that they don't like where they are, and that's a huge chance back. Of course, you can only reflect so much, so Phoenix Slayer is able to find Margin's life inside enemy jungle.
Yep, so they managed to get a kill onto Margin, and now Phoenix Flare is hoping to return the favor, but that feast is up for Zhao PP. The Vi's got to be careful. Yeah, you don't want to have to wrestle control of an objective against a champion like Cho'Gath. He's just going to ult that one away. But again, just utilizing that insane amount of vision on the bot side, trying to look for a play. It's not necessarily on the targets they would have wanted. I have to think they probably would have liked to kill either Kite or Kraydog more, but it does help in getting the Victor ahead, right? It's the first kill going over to Quality player, so you've got this Victor, in a position to be able to carry later on in the game, and potentially Zhao PP found again.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, Zhao PP this time, though, has a good rupture, but again, Quality player is looking so dang strong. Mel front running, though, as that's going to be the ultimate use, and the execution comes through. Margin deletes Phoenix Flare from the map just in time for a mid lane push.
Yeah, and now they've got 3 members, 6 Grub strong, so they should be able to take that tower. That top lane turret is also super duper low. Yeah, we can see Sangjuni is just going to take that one, so this could potentially be a massive moment for Akuma.
Oh. CC chain galore, chain of corruption into the encore, into the rupture. That's at least 4 seconds to just stay in your lane and stay where you are. Not only 1 tower, but 2 total to bring Akuma Scimitars well into the lead without a 2.5k lead.
And now they're going to have a ton of gold to be able to spend Orbital with 2 objectives soon to be on the map. You've got that Herald up now, but you've also got the Dragon up in about 30 seconds. Akuma Scimitars with, you know, their new toys, their new items, their newfound power spike can really just walk toward that bot side river and potentially challenge the Forgotten Spire. But really the thing I want to pay attention to are those top laners. You can see Sangjuni really close to hitting Mega, has that teleport available, so the Nar's presence could very easily just dissuade the Forgotten Spire from taking this 3rd dragon, and if that is interrupted, it could put a dent in their game plan.
Oh boy, well, where the dent comes through is the cease and desist. The Zhao PP flashes away and is able to stay safe. That is an ult down though. Ooh, coming out of Phoenix Flare. Now a chance for Kraydog to step away, but the wards are being cleared out. So once again, it is just a space-taking initiative by the Forgotten Spire, but Arcadius walking a little bit too dangerously. That's a knock up onto the fish, but a quick fight back as a TP coming in from Jolts. Zhao PP trying to get some help, but that's going face, and Phoenix Flare is down. What can Jolts do except to bring everyone into the sun as quality players trying to do damage in the back line? This is gonna be the DPS. Great kill coming out of Jolts, but can you do a little bit more as everyone else on your team is quite low? Another knockup into the chain of corruption. It misses though, but the HP bars are a little bit too low and no mana to play with means the dragon is going to lean in favor of Akuma Scimitars. Sangjuni still stepping up. Great stun, great toss him back. Jolts is gonna try and go ham here as best he can. He do survive. No auto attacks to come through as Jolts lives, and that means Akuma Scimitars can't do dragon.
Yeah, Akuma Scimitars, they're pushed off of the Drake. TFS managed to stall out enough. Jolts manages to make miracles happen. And they don't get that neutral objective. Now we can see Phoenix Flare is back on the map. Arcadius is back on the map. The Jinx now with that BF sword as well. So a lot of power going into this bot lane carry pick. And we are right back to square one, Orbital, except now the Forgotten Spire have wrestled control of the bot side river.
And all of a sudden, the Forgotten Spire looking better and better. However, a Feast Smite combo could be in the works. Great knock-up on the quality player, but Jolts is here to play. And it looks like Margin sets a little bit too far forward. Encore lands on the 2, but where is the Gnar? Gnar is nowhere to be seen. And that means the rest of your team is to lead a great wave to wave off further threat, as that is 3 gone and the Dragon taken. The Forgotten Spire wrest control back.
And Jolts continues to impress on this Cassandra. He groups all of the Akuma Scimitar members up, and the AoE from Arcadius knocks him right back down. They're on stall point here, Orbital. 19 and a half minutes into the game, and the Forgotten Spire, they want to be first to strike in this series.
I cannot believe how quickly it turned on its head. The Forgotten Spire, we mentioned that we need to see this Victor kind of pop off, but it's Jolts leading the frontline charge. Phoenix Slayer has been there to help though. Every time Jolts goes in now in these team fights, Phoenix Slayer seems to be there, and Quality even got caught out in that fight. I want to point that out. Originally in that second turn, they were caught out, and yet Arcadius, Hawk, everyone else was there to step up, and Akuma Scimitars maybe got a little bit too comfortable and now have to say, okay, maybe we're not so far in the lead as we expected.
I mean, the gold is still dead even, but the threat of that Dragon Soul being right around the corner, Akuma Scimitars now find themselves on a timer, Orbital, right? Obviously, you've still got that Herald up. The Otacon is available too. It's Ruinous as well, which buffs up all of your objectives taken, all of the stats that they give you, as well as the future ones that you might get. So this is a position that Akuma really don't want to be in, because that Otacon goes to the Forgotten Spire, and suddenly that Dragon became really bad, and now it's just going to get worse. So they're forcing off this Herald despite being on vision. The Forgotten Spire not really in a position to fight this Jinx. Does have the rocket, so maybe there's a chance for a steal.
We say that, but Zhao PP has definitely learned their lesson. I feel like JLPP has been in situations where steals have been a very large factor and just like, nah, I'm good. I know what's coming this way. So you go ahead and wait it out. Go ahead and get that feast stack as well. And as easy does, all of a sudden Akuma Scimitars do have a chance at a proactive move if they wish to break down, say, the bot side outer tower or maybe the mid lane inner tower.
Yeah, sure. And on the other side, taking away a bit of attention from the mid lane, we can also see that quality player been farming up a lot in that bot lane. So the side lane really been something that Victor wants to do, right? You want to get that gold, you want to get that CS. He's sitting at around 2 items. And I do think that, just getting these win conditions to the late game is Arcadius. Oh boy.
Yeah, this is the way that you want to see, but Phoenix Slayer coming in to root them out and say, yeah, no chance at all. And honestly, that's a great chase out. No dragon to play for, so it does mean that the Forgotten Spire is just kind of being pushed out on the side, but Akuma Scimitars are going to try and use this time to actually get them routed. And I like this call. Seongjuni, though, steps up a little bit too far, eats about 40% of their HP. And again, the Forgotten Spire, like, yeah, you tried to make that work. Nah, we're good. We go ahead and hold this lane.
You can kind of see Phoenix Flare off to the side, the Vi potentially looking for an angle to unleash that cease and desist on the back line, but the opportunity not presenting itself. Both teams, like you said, Orbital, no dragon to fight for. The Otacon is way too volatile at this point in time. It would take way too long to try and rush that one down, so they're not going to play for it. It's just a matter of fighting for this mid lane control. And I do think that is going to be the priority in the next, 90 or so seconds, that dragon coming up around that time. So both teams going to try and lay down vision around this bot side river, gain control of that mid lane, gain control of that bot lane. You can already see that Seongjuni is moving around that area as this Nart as well. So it's a matter of zone control, and whoever can set up better is likely going to be the ones that benefit from getting this dragon.
Let's see where that where the setup actually goes. Even though they may have been looking, mid lane is where the Forgotten Spire is really putting a lot of their pressure. Seongjuni trying to come around the edge here after this tower falls and making a play from there. That's going to be a little bit of a roar that really doesn't catch anything, so it is just all 5 of Spire just rushing over. Arcadius setting up in the mid lane. Does have 2 items, by the way, and because the Forgotten Spire were able to collect and get the boots upgraded, it gives a little bit more oomph behind it as well, which feels, in my opinion, really dang good. Eyes out, though, as quality players just roaming inside of that jungle space and just trying to be a giant pain in the butt as they step up a little bit further again. Seongjuni now Mega.
Yeah, but the timing is a little bit off for the Dar. If they want to go for a play, they've got to force it now because he's not going to be Mega for much longer. They're actually going to drop the Herald here to try and force a response, potentially delay the response time of the Forgotten Spire around this dragon. I like this play, but what is going to be made of it?
Oh, just a dog pile of damage.
Oh,
That's even JLPP to step in. Awkward lands on the 1. Do you get Arcadius? Yes, you do. But can anyone reach? Can anyone blow them up? Yes, they do. Akuma Scimitars are able to find the right cut and slice on through the Forgotten Spire, as the Spire will topple one way or another. Bring another charge in as well. JLPP heads towards the dragon, and Akuma Scimitars swing the game back in their favor.
Yup, they find a pick onto Jolts. They find the Kazante. They knock him down, and suddenly the Forgotten Spire, they find themselves without a frontliner. The rest of them go down. They tried so hard to potentially give Arcadius a reset, but they weren't able to find the damage, and now the dragon will be in Akuma's clutches. The Otacon will be soon to follow. Phoenix Slayer is just now coming back from death, so those objectives will go the way of the Scimitars. The Forgotten Spire, they get nothing as a result. They have been breached. Akuma have found their moment, and now the game is in their control. 25 minutes in.
Why are the swings happening like this, Quacks? Why is this happening? I mean, Jolts walks up, and I get it, you're trying to help out in the front line, but you get picked off. And earlier on, Akuma Scimitars kind of threw at Dragon, and now it's just flip-floppity all the way through. So honestly, I am curious who is going to take full reins here instead of trying to pass the reins back and forth. The Forgotten Spire realized that, yeah, maybe they messed up once, but they still have Soul Point to play for. But the Baron is really the terrifying part right now as Kraydog goes ahead and clears out a couple wards, and we can see the likes of Quality Player and Arcadius both trying to farm up a Storm, trying to reach that third item breakpoint, which is still fairly far off.
And I mean, Akuma have been so good at being, you know, first toward a certain key zone that is contested, right? Just making sure that they can lay down the vision, as Jolt is going to get hit by the Change of Corruption. And really, the big reason why they have been so good at controlling zones of interest is with that range, right? With that Varus, with that Mel, with that Seraphine, all the AoE and range that comes with their kits just makes it so hard to contest, lay down vision where it is needed, and at the end of the day, contest vision, because you're going to be getting hit by so much.
Jeez, yeah, I mean, Zhao PP getting hit by a whole lot there. Phoenix Slayer having to flash away after getting that kill, but it was enough. TP's both coming in from the top laners. And I like the reflection on that wave. Margin was like, yeah, no, right back at you, please. And it will just be a loss of their jungler for right now.
Yeah, and you know, that Baron is up, no jungler means that they could look to go on that top side objective, but look at the waves, right? You can see the wave in bot lane is pushing. They're going to send Jolts to deal with that one. Quality Player is going to get the turret, so at least they get something for their efforts, but just because they don't have, you know, a strong foothold over that topside river, they aren't able to threaten that objective and really push Akuma around in a state where they're comfortable, where they're uncomfortable rather.
It'll take a little bit more time before they can do so. Right now, everyone just kind of goes back to quiet, and I wouldn't be surprised if both teams are also saying, hey, Dragon's coming up at another 215. Let's just farm until that objective comes up. I mean, Baron's on the table, but that's not going to go down unless we delete, you know, maybe 2 or 3 members fully in one go. So for right now, everyone just kind of playing that waiting game. As you mentioned, Jolt's headed towards that bot side, saying Junie, of course, pushing in pretty heavily already. But we are still waiting. Good pings going down, though, identifying that Quality Player might be alone there on the top side.
So Quality does not have that flash as well, so, you know, easy pickings potentially for anything like a Chain of Corruption, as now Blue Ward going to spot them out early on this Baron, but Jolts doesn't have teleport. The Casante's not going to be able to join on up. Levi is here. Can they make it happen again? This is the specialty of Cho'Gath.
Oh, and it's not even the Cho'Gath that got it. It was Kite to go ahead and finish it off.
Oh, he's going in.
Coming afterwards, that's Phoenix to go on in, and Margin is gone. Now Quality
Chaos Storm
as well, as this is going to be a chance. Chaos Storm is burned out, but saying Junie might also pay with their life. They flash over the wall into enemy territory, try and swing everyone away, but Quality Player will chase them down and possibly give another kill over. Hop over the wall all you can.
Extra move.
Damage has already been done as Baron was taken by Akuma Scimitars, but the kills go the Forgotten Spire's way.
And they're going to chase down this Nard to the edges of the earth, but he does have the hop, he does have the skip, he does have the jump. He's probably going to double jump on these minions. Dang, this guy has a lot of mobility. He's actually wasting a lot of time, but they've all found themselves around the bot side. He's not long for this world, it looks like, Orbital.
Nope. You are gone. Great little zap at the end of the day. Arcadius will go ahead and clean that one up. Their 4th of the game, going for that last whisper. I wouldn't be surprised at an LDR build here, but Zhao PP as well as Sang Junie both going for that that Randuin's Omen, just making sure to have those slows, but they immediately power down this mid lane. And the time that you were talking about, how much time can Sang Junie burn? Quite a bit as that inhibitor turret goes down.
But I mean, the unfortunate part about Sang Junie canceling, you know, all of that time away from the Forgotten Spire is his back is significantly asynchronous compared to this Dragon. The Dragon going to be up in about 5 seconds. Sang Junie going to be up in about 15, and he doesn't have that teleport. So Akuma Scimitars have found themselves a 4v5 for the time being.
I don't like where they're looking at right now. Kite realizing that they're not in a great spot. Whatever flank. Margin tried to save their ADC, but it doesn't do enough. Now Margin will be caught. Execution does literally nothing. And St. Junie goes, crap, I wasn't there, guys. And the Forgotten Spire get a freebie onto the Dragon Soul.
Sure, Akuma managed to breach the base of the Forgotten Spire with the time that the Gnar bought, but the Gnar was not around for the Dragon. The Forgotten Spire, strength in numbers, and now strength in the Mountain Dragon Soul for them 30 minutes into the game. and nothing real for Akuma to really respond with. The Baron not going to be up for another 3.5 minutes. The waves also not in their control. The Forgotten Spire have a chance to accelerate their lead, and they've got the resources to back it up now.
I'm surprised at all the twists that we've had so far. Even though the Forgotten Spire are sitting at 4 dragons and 3 towers, Akuma Scimitars are still up in gold respectively, only about 1k, which obviously is kind of negated with the boot purchases. I mean, Jolts has already gone ahead and upgraded all the way full, so we're seeing those strengths come through here. But yeah, if you look at raw gold, Akuma Scimitars still have a fighting chance, but where are they lacking right now? Because it feels like it's not so much the team fights itself, it's they're getting caught every which way.
Yeah, and also, you know, with the scaling power of the Jinx now, you know, closing in on that 4th item, Victor as well, closing in on his 4th item, those champions just are so consequential with 1 kill, right? Because you get the resets on the Get Excited from the Jinx. 1 kill from the Chaos Storm, or the Chaos Storm participating in 1 kill, means that it gets larger. So it really just feels like a snowball effect whenever you're playing against the Forgotten Spire. Their carries, not only do they have a ton of damage, but that damage gets worse the more members you lose. So it's really going to be up to Akuma to try and look for picks, right? Use Kite or Kratos or any of those ultimates to try and get someone alone and maybe get yourself a numbers advantage, because as it stands, these 5v5s are not working in their favor. They have got to try and circumvent that strategy and look for other opportunities in different ways.
Really do, and if they don't take your advice to heart quacks, things might not look so great. So for right now, take a little bit of time. You can see where the focus currently is. The Forgotten Spire for the first time feel like they're actually pressuring in on this mid lane. Baron is going to be up in 2 minutes, so still plenty of time to push, and Arcadius is just clearing out these waves one after another. And Phoenix Slayer at this point sitting in about 3 items completed, just kind of running interference. I actually really like this call so far, just kind of bouncing between top and mid and saying, okay, as long as I can keep an eye on the opponent, we're in a really good spot. A little bit of a test there in the mid lane, forcing Phoenix Slayer out, but on the bot side, we're seeing Jolts and saying Juni continuously go at it like cats and dogs.
Yeah, and I mean, Jolt rocking a lot of extra armor, you know, the additional shield from the Mountain Soul. So the poke from Gnar, not really that consequential, despite him having that Black Cleaver. It's not going to really put a dent in this Cassante. And sure, I mean, you can kind of look at it and laugh in the laning phase, but it's going to be not very funny for Akuma when you realize that this Cassante won't be taking any damage in the team fights either, right? He'll be immortal all the same. It doesn't matter how much armor pen you have. It doesn't matter how much magic pen you have. It doesn't matter how hard you can hit this Cassante. This guy is practically made of vibranium at this point, and the next time he's going to be able to showcase that is around this Baron coming up in about 30 seconds. Akuma going to be wrestling control of this mid lane wave, and they also have already set up a decent amount of vision on that top side with the push in the top lane. So the Forgotten Spire gonna have to be the ones walking in to the Wolf's Nest, but they're the stronger team at the moment, so let's see what happens.
Phoenix Flare, you don't even have the flash available. Well, you do have the flash available, but you haven't even been able to use it right there. So you just kind of eat your death and you say, crap, well, I might have given Baron over. So this is going to be a difficult part. However, it actually looks like the Forgotten Spire are wanting to fight it with the TP coming in.
Yeah, I mean, they want to fight. There were a few ultimates used in that exchange, so they have an opportunity. Gnar isn't mega. They're not going to get the Baron, but maybe they can avenge it.
Nope, I don't think they can right now. Jolts gets a 4-man knockback, so Arcadius might be able to work, and they only get Rocket up. Hey, maybe you gotta bring it forward. Rocket's going out. Oh, that's a zapper. And look at quality player with a huge Chaos Storm chasing away Sing Juni, and Baron left on 2 as they get chased into the wrong side of the map. Thankfully, Zhao PP was able to recall, but man, the Forgotten Spire said, don't forget about our power.
Yup, and there we go. That's what we were talking about, Orbital. 1 kill, the Get Excited, the Chaos Storm, the damage from Quality Player and Arcadius. These guys have scaled. 4v5 be damned. Baron be damned. It is a 4-4-1. and they are making rounds here in this late game. The Dragon, the Elder in particular, going to be up in about 45 seconds here. And the Forgotten Spire, more than poised to take that team fight, barring any unfortunate, I will say, picks onto one of their members. Phoenix Flare, watch your back, buddy, because this fight is also pivotal.
I like how we both kind of have the same idea. So it's like, Phoenix Slayer, please don't die. Like, that's all we ask right now. Please don't get caught, as we see another Rupture land on Arcadius. But I think it really is that one. However, that's the Chain of Corruption going out there. And Kai realizing they're not in the right spot. Joel jumps in as well. And this time it's the Forgotten Spire to find a catch onto Akuma Scimitars with no Gnar and no Mel means it's all death. 1 + 1 = win. The Forgotten Spire take 3, and they will look to push down the mid lane.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they take down 3. They've got all 5. They've got a wave as well. The Get Excited is going to mean that they just continue to take these down quicker and quicker. You can't clear the wave if you can't get through the front line. And that front line, it's limping as Jolts is very low, but he gets out nonetheless.
And I like the fact that they didn't take the inhibitor just yet. That is freestanding gold, but that's also a lot of time that you will burn away. So instead, you go for the immediate benefits here, which is this Elder Soul, one that we haven't seen in quite a while, I would say. But it's a very big pickup considering you look on the other side, you see Zhao PP and all. Now, my question to you, Quacks, is a very fun question. Can Mel reflect an Elder execute?
No, I don't think Mel can reflect buffs like that or on hit effects. So,
oh dang,
like
that would be funny. I'm not gonna lie.
That would be absolutely hilarious, but I don't think it's possible. That would be like the most insane thing ever. That would be hilarious for sure. But yeah, I don't think that a rebuttal is going to save you. I don't think that a god can save you at this point. Akuma, you better be praying because you've got the Soul against you, you've got the Elder against you. You don't have the Baron, so the push might be a little bit stalled here for the Forgotten Spire, but with how tanky Jolts is and how much damage Arcadius and Quality Player do, they might just be able to run through these turrets and say, YOLO, let's just fight them, let's just kill them. We've got the damage to do so. We've got a tank who can run through everything. We've got no reason not to just end it right here, right now.
I think that will have to be the answer that they call for, considering that the side lanes aren't really pressured in at the right stage. So this is the only avenue in. They are going to go ahead and try and fight forward. That's going to be a catch. Phoenix Slayer actually dies on the take his member, but they are going to chunk through it. Zhao PP is just gone. Rupture lands on 2, but it doesn't really matter. And that's going to be saying Junie just going, hey, let's go ahead and go for round 2. But again, down goes a Zhao PP. Inhibitor is now gone. So this is a free fire. Do they continue to push in like you called, Quacks? And it looks like they are going to try again. Arcadius standing behind their stalwart tanks. That's another tower taken, this time on the Nexus. Next wave crashing in. Is it going to be enough? Mini Gnar is out. Akuma Scimitars has to realize that they only have one more chance and one more opportunity, and it's going to be a 4v5. And they go straight to the back line. Lasers upon damage. The dragon roars as damage calls out, and that is 4 total gone. Margin, the last one alive, as the Forgotten Spire will take game 1.
And the Forgotten Spire wrestle control in that late game, and they absolutely destroy the Akuma Scimitars. And I mean, it was looking rough from the first few minutes, right? That dive onto the bot lane that Zhao PP managed to execute, that was a tough place to be in for Arcadius, but he manages to come back. He manages to wait for his time. And when his time came, he was looking like Jinx from Arcane at the end of season 1. Not at the end of season 2. So I am really impressed with how the Forgotten Spire played out that mid to late game. There were some bumps in the road, but overall, this is a team that looks really, really solid, right? And you want that good look right before playoffs. You want to make sure that everything is in order right before those do or die matches. So the form that they are playing at gets me really, really stoked to see them in game 2. And in the case of Akuma Scimitars, you know, it's going down a game, but you still had good shades of gameplay. So I really want to see them extend that early game, wrestle control a little bit more of those dragons as well. It really felt like the Forgotten Spire took, those first 2 drakes really without a fight. And I want to see a little bit more of a contest, a little bit of a smart contest, I will say, as throwing your bot lane into 4 is not what I would consider to be a smart contest. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority. But it just kind of feels like they could have done a little bit more going into that first game in the wake of trying to fight back in those neutrals, especially when they've got the Cho'Gath, and they weren't really able to execute on that. So I want to see a little bit more fighting from these guys.
I would agree with that one, and honestly, that's what we're going to be hoping for going into game number 2. It is do or die time for the side of Akuma Scimitars, and hopefully they can find their purchases. Speaking of purchases, if you are having a problem with longing for that special Japanese item but can't find it locally, we have the solution for you in Zen Market. Zen Market is your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They'll help you buy items from over 10,000 shops in Japan, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items safely into one box and can ship internationally as well. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why Zen Market is trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. If you are interested in that, if you saw the commercial earlier, we'll play it again here in a little bit, but check out the panel below the stream or click the link in the chat to try them out. Now, if you sign up with the promo code Aegis, that is AEGIS, you'll get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. Once again, that is AEGIS. Go ahead, tune in to their commercial here, which is awesome, and we'll be right back with game number 2 between Akuma Scimitars and the Forgotten Spire. Don't go anywhere.
日本にはまだある？
急がないと在庫があるのはそこだ。遅かった。そのフィギュアを一つだけ譲ってくれんやろか。
お前はだよ、同志じゃねえか。もちろん取引しようや。
ありがとう、全マーケット。
Game number one was an absolute slugfest, which of course the Forgotten Spire was able to come out on top thanks to some immaculate scaling and honestly very, very good team fighting. We're already knee deep into the draft though, as we do have the Forgotten Spire on the blue side and Akuma Scimitars on the red, and we can see where they already dropped their focus, which was, hey, ban away the Jinx, don't let that one through. But the Cassante was still a big problem, so Jolts will still get that rampant monster in the top lane.
Yep, so we are going to see the Cassante first picked up here. Akuma, though, potentially wanting to respond with that immediately. We've also we've adapted into this meta orbital where a lot of the top laners are just straight up first picked, right? You get that out of the way. The counter pick in top lane has really fallen off in priority and been replaced with kind of the supports, right? I mean, we've seen support B5, support B4 be really, really popular over the course of season 15. So I don't expect that we are going to see this Cassante's matchup hidden for much longer, but they're immediately going to slam the Varus. Akuma Scimitar is going to give that one back over to Kite. That definitely was one of the lanes that I think worked the best for them, right? They managed to get Kite ahead very early on. It just kind of felt like once that mid to late game shifted around, he wasn't able to really contend with the scaling. And now that that Jinx is removed from the equation, he might have a better time. Gangplank Orbital. That's a spicy pick if ever I've seen one.
I love that it does feel like Akuma Scimitars are leaning into the early game successes. If we were to just take a look at the early game specifically, outside of a few choice team fights at the bottom side, I mean, what? We saw Zhao PP running the show, consistently invading. We saw the mid lane do okay. I mean, Margin obviously didn't have the greatest time, but was able to rotate and follow. And as you mentioned, the bot lane was very, very important. So for Akuma Scimitars, I like that they're leaning into, hey, we're going to have more global efficiency. But if that isn't Aphelios and Nico locked in, the Forgotten Spire is going a drastically different route. Once again, the Aphelios coming out is one that I haven't seen in ages, quite honestly, and I don't know where it falls in the meta, but the Nico matches in. That is a great wombo combo that they have lined up. No, they go ahead and line up and take the Nami instead.
All right, a little bit more stock standard coming out here. You know, Nico maybe being locked in could have thrown Akuma for a loop and thinking, okay, maybe this is mid, maybe this is support. You know, maybe this is even jungle if we want to try and match Zhao PP's level of spice here in game 2, but doesn't look like that is going to be the case. They're just going to stick to a tried and true bot lane combo. And now Akuma likely going to respond with a support of their own. I would imagine we want to see some engage come through, right? Gangplank doesn't really have any. You want to capitalize off the chains of corruption. Yeah, Rakan to me is a really good option. The Leona was also available, but I do think that if you want versatility in your support role, Rakan really is the best at that. He really is a jack of all trades, in my opinion.
Before the Rakan, it was the Thresh, but I will agree Rakan has some of the best engage, outgage, and being able to turn away aggression. But Akuma Scimitars giving a lot of respect over to the Vi. The Vi that honestly Phoenix Slayer ran was very, very impactful, and considering there's a Nami behind to help kind of boost that with the wave, it makes sense that you wouldn't want to give both over, so you try and deny a little bit more in that flavor. So Phoenix Slayer not going to get that favor, but the Elise, and most likely I think it was a Renata Glass from before. I don't know if this will be banned out still, but it could be up on the window. The Elise makes sense though. Again, that capture target in the jungle is huge impact if you still know how to play it. The Victor though, good respect handed over.
Yep, so we are going to ban away that Victor, ban away that scaling, but there are still plenty of options, I think, for quality player to really make a splash in this mid lane, but it is a bit of a dangerous game having to pick it blind, and I do think we are going to probably see the you know, B5 mid lane coming out here. The support, or rather the jungle, probably going to be revealed right out of the gate. It is going to be the Maokai, so we don't have a ton of magic damage here yet again. Orbital from the side of Akuma, we're really missing that magic damage, and we're really going to see what gets picked up here in the mid lane. But again, it's a tough thing to do, right? Because I think that the Forgotten Spire aren't really, you know, afraid of going for a mid laner that could potentially just be super duper safe, right? To dodge away some of that Maokai early aggression. The Pantheon jungle would be a really fun, I think, counter, and it is going to be locked in now. There are plenty of good ultimates from Akuma here in this game. Sylas could be a worthwhile champ, or if you want something to compare up with the Pantheon, you could go for the Orianna, the Galio, or the Talia, and it looks like it is going to be the first option. So good mid-jungle pairing, good bot lane combination. The last pick, though, what is it going to be? Orbital, we cannot escape this champion here on the ADL. Everyone loves him for what reason?
I don't know, but I love it too because I am a Xerath main at heart. But what I am looking at here is all eyes on the bot lane is really what I'm looking at. Akuma Scimitars are quite literally called in the inactive artillerymen from off the map. They have the Gangplank, they have the Xerath, and if anything goes down in the bottom lane, someone's going to die. I'm not sure if it's from the artillery strike that Varus won't even throw down, but Akuma Scimitars are leaning into that, which begs the question. Is this a composition that you like more than in game number 1? Does it line up, or are we still seeing a little bit of shaky ground there?
It's a hard to execute comp. I mean, anytime you've got a Gangplank, I really feel like you got to perk your eyes up and say, okay, how well does Seongjuni actually know how to play this champion, right? Because
True.
I have seen some really good Gangplanks in my time as a player and a caster orbital. I've seen some really bad ones, right? And I do think that the bad ones certainly leave more of a lasting impression on me than the good ones. And if you aren't, able to execute a lot on these team fights in particular on Gangplank, it's going to be a really tough game for you to play. And especially against 3 ranged, it's already difficult, right? Because you're usually going to get beaten to the punch with a lot of those barrels. Really the best time to play Gangplank is when they have an engage comp or they're heavy on the melees. This time around, TFS aren't really big on either. They've got engage, right? But not a ton. They've also got a lot of disengage with things like the Nami, and they don't have they don't have necessarily a overabundance of melee champions. Really, it's only that Cassante and it's only that Pantheon. It's only that top side. So this bot side could very well, get ahead in the early game, could really start to snowball. And even if you as Gangplank get ahead in the early game, get that gold, get those silver serpents, and set yourself up for a carry performance later on, getting that damage off on the barrels is going to inherently be very difficult.
We'll see if they can pull it off right now. Seongjuni has a lot of weight riding on them. Same with Martian in the mid lane, who on that meld did not have the greatest time, so now has to kind of make up for lost ground against this Orion in the mid lane. Phoenix Slayer though saying, hey Zhao PP, you're not on that aggressive Cho'Gath that we saw before. Great. I'm going to take the Pantheon that was banned out in game number 1 and see if it runs true. Forgotten Spire looking for a 2-0 here on the evening, but Akuma Scimitars hoping for a game 3. Both teams fighting for a spot in the upper 2 slots for the Targon division here in the ADL. So let's go ahead, give them a little bit of time, and we'll be right back with game number 2.
Don't fear what you don't know, 'cause we're far from certain fate. And we'll make our final stand, lost in the dark. We've come so far, another step to rid the pain. Go and be counted till your last day, 'cause only nightmares break their flames. So stand upon these fallen lands. you. Will you follow me tonight to break their spine and reclaim what once was mine? Those cravens backstabbed me, deceived me. Never shall I tolerate their crimes again. Now let the hunt begin. Oh, 7,000 souls scared and daunted, such a tale of woe. Not too long ago, this village was a golden scene of hope. Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our glory to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order. I am the light bringer. Fellow warriors, I ask you, should my campaign come to an end? There's way more to avenge. Oh, 15 million souls living in this realm without much hope. Not too long ago, this kingdom was a golden state of hope. Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our glory to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order.
And we are here, game number 2. Some unorthodox picks, but picks nonetheless. Sang Junie on the Gangplank, Margin on the Xerath, and then of course we have to talk about Arcadius on that Aphelios, a champion that we have been waiting to see really take off, and then Phoenix Slayer with a little bit more aggression on the Pantheon that was banned away in game number 1. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, and a lot of expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we talk a lot about ease of execution here on the ADL, and that's something that, you know, looking at Akuma's comp could prove to be a major factor in potentially some sources of struggle later on in this game. The scaling, really the name of the game. And, you know, if you aren't able to get those barrel combos as Sang Junie, if you aren't able to get those spells landed as Margin, then you know you lose out on 2 primary sources of damage. Whereas you look on the other side, the Forgotten Spire, very stock standard game plan. The 5v5 a lot easier to execute, and overall just more disciplined, right? I mean, you see a lot more Cassantes than you do Gangplanks. You see a lot more Orianas than you do Xeraths. You know, maybe not on the ADL in particular, because apparently every and their mother in the ADL likes Xerath. But I do think that ease of execution really does favor the Forgotten Spire, and so if they don't, you know, necessarily botch this early game, they should find themselves having an easier time once those team fights start to roll around.
Of course, we already see the first little arrow go through Kite, trying to throw down the extra damage, but with an Aphelios, you always got to kind of watch what happens as Kraydog jumps on in. And again, with these weapon swaps, I mean, if you haven't played against an Aphelios in a while, that's also a piece of the pie as they step up. But Arcadius has to burn that cleanse, and I don't think they liked what they had right there. Multiple potions being burned here as this bot lane is already spicy for minute 2.
Yep, heal and cleanse both used from Arcadius and Pock, and you can already see those arrows really starting to put a dent in the health bar of this Aphelios, but they ding level 2 first. They can return the favor.
Yep, it feels great. I mean, Arcadius is like, sweet, let's go ahead and swing back. No potions available. And for Kraydog, there's not as much immediate healing factor as, say, Pock does on the Nami. So Kite's going to sit on below 50% HP for a decent while until Kraydog can do something like that.
Yeah, Sure, and I mean, he's got a little bit of healing with that Q, but I think you really hit the nail on the head. The in-lane sustain from just having Nami in your back pocket is a lot better than the Rakan, and so it is going to mean they can harass for a lot longer, especially with that green sniper gun. You know, you can sort of circumvent that range that Varus has with your own range, which I believe is longer, and just be kind of the aggressor in this lane. But you know, taking away some attention from the bot lane for just a little bit. Both junglers kind of pathing toward this bot lane. Fenix Flare a little bit faster on this Pantheon. Maokai notoriously slow on the first clear, and every subsequent clear, it kind of feels like. But it will probably mean that he, unless he skips that blue, which it looks like he's going to do, won't be first to that crab, and so we'll be able to actually wrestle control of this river before Fenix Flare can, and it might end up being a gank angle.
Yep, they go ahead and just jump right in, and honestly, there ain't no way out. Arcadius will eat up that damage in its first blood yet again. It's a Kite here in the bottom lane.
Yep, so Deja Vu kind of hitting the rift here in the second game for the time being. Orbital, I believe Fenix Flare might have been C, but he's going to use that E movement speed, but a sapling saves him. But really good recognition there from Xiao PP saying, okay, I'm not the win con. My tempo, if it leads to my bot lane getting an advantage, needs to be sacked. So he does just that, and he might be looking for more.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take a little bit of a swing peek as Quality steps back in a way. Margin running low on mana here, but able to gather a little bit back. And this is something that for a good Xerath you are maintaining, is you're trying to get the right amount of poke plus CS, but you're down about a wave, which actually kind of hurts. So for Margin, you're sitting there going, dang, maybe it didn't go as easily as you would like. Jolt's on the top side, still leaning into this kind of dance around the barrels, has gone ahead and made sure that you're within about half a wave. So not the worst position for Jolts to be in.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I do like how active Xiao PP is around the map, not just getting that gank in the bot lane, but also throwing down that ward, tracking where Fenix Flare is as he clears his top side the second time around. So they should have a lot easier of a time tracking where this Pantheon is, where he'll be relative to his jungle clear, and just making sure that the snowball of this jungle pick is delayed for as long as possible. And I think with him going toward this bot side, it means that Xiao PP will be able to take these grubs in the near future, so we might see a trade later down the line.
I just realized it is very annoying to watch a double CC bot lane, but Arcadius eating a lot of damage and having to burn that cleanse yet again off repeat. And I don't know if you're really enjoying this one as much. Granted, you are up in CS numbers. You're up about a wave and some change, so it's not bad, but to have to burn that cleanse twice and not even against an old, I mean, Arcadius has to be a little bit more careful than that.
See Fenix maybe looking for an angle here. He went around the tri-bush.
Oh, good flash out though. Kite gonna stay alive, but honestly, it was a great diversion. Fenix Flare is saying, hey, now I've got your flash.
Yeah, exactly. So flash is burned for the Aphelios. That Arcane Barrage is actually going to attempt to kill the Aphelios, but it's gonna be unsuccessful. He gets tagged by one, but that I think was just about it. But it does mean that, you know, contrary to Fenix Flare and burning that flash and, you know, wrestling control for his bot lane, the health bars of this Aphelios, the mana bar of this Nami just not having those resources means that they are actually going to be the ones pushed in despite their jungler babysitting them. And now they're going to call in the big bad mid laner, it looks like, Orbital.
And that should be a free kill on the Kite if you're willing, but a good jump forward as Fenix tries to solo it in, and you draw them in for the battle, and that's a shockwave to close it out. So a answered battle, and yet it's a heavy expenditure with the number of players that they had to invest.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very costly kill, but they get it at the end of the day. They aren't even able to really transition that into an objective, so it's a kill, nothing else. You can see Xiao PP is still on the bot side as well, so it's kind of a question of what does this Maokai want to do now? His AD carry will be coming back to the lane. He'll get seen on this ward. The dragon is up, the grubs are up. Fenix Flare is, you know, around half HP, so this Pantheon, for the time being, won't really have the ability to respond to whatever play this Maokai will go for. And it looks like it's just going to be a dragon for free. Pantheon, though, likely going to go to this top side and try and get those grubs.
I mean, it would make a lot of sense here. And I mean, it is a little bit slower pace than maybe we were expecting with the neutral camp objectives, but it's still there. being taken. We are still hunting for the first 3 kills as well. Keep in mind, I believe it was the Forgotten Spire that got it in the first game, so maybe they do the same here. Granted, Pox stepping up very, very heavily, trying to dance on top, but Cray Dog being identified, and that's the chain of corruption. As Arcadia says, nothing we talked about, that miss on the cleanse, and it is now coming back to bite them in the butt. Kite with yet another kill.
Yeah, I mean, Kite and Kraydog being a lot more aggressive the second time around, it is netting them a ton of advantages here on this bot side. Hawk is alone out as this Nami. They're not going to go for the dive, but Zhao PP, I think, understanding where Phoenix Flare is on the map, is just going to look to invade this red buff, take away resources from the opposition, and most importantly, establish presence on this side of the map. This is where all the action is really going to happen in the laning phase. And so the Maokai being able to set up his own little base of operations there, really going to stagnate the help that this Aphelios and Nami can get from their own team.
And I'm wondering if we take a look at Quality Player, who is now sitting at about 73, still up about a wave, even with that roam towards the bot side. If we are going to see some more aggression come out of them, because they were the recipient of that kill. Keep in mind, they were able to grab that 400 gold. They immediately rushed the Swifties on there, and they said, yeah, I just want to move around a little bit more. They went even with the tier as well, so heavy on the stacking precision, but also looking into that mix of, okay, I am going to be playing for the team a little bit more, trying to make sure that I'm always there to land that shockwave, to land that extra bit of damage.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we do want to see that shockwave combo come out eventually, but we talked about the early game. It's relatively slower paced, like you said, Orbital. And so far, it's going the way of Akuma Scimitars. 2 kills still onto Kite. Zhao PP is on that top side, though. So I am wondering if, you know, maybe Phoenix Flare has an opportunity. He can potentially look to influence the bot lane, but there is just so little vision on the map. TFS have absolutely no idea where the Maokai is. So really, if they want to make an aggressive play, they have to make sure they know Zhao PP's location. And as of now, they just don't know that. So I feel like they're going to be too scared to be proactive on this bot lane out of fear that potentially this Maokai could show his face. And
I think Jolt thought he was going to get over the wall there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And just face planted in there, but as you called, the fact that Zhao PP is on the top side is unknown to the rest of the team. So Phoenix Flare still being stuck in this position where you can't use the Grand Skyfall, and you're just kind of stuck in this position of, I'll just keep farming, I guess.
Yeah, now they get a little bit of a whiff as to where this Maokai is. I believe they spotted him out on that Tribush ward placed by Jolt. So eyes on Zhao PP for the time being, and now it just looks like the Maokai setting up some vision on this top side. But the one thing that the Pantheon does have is hang on, Quality Player.
I mean, this is a great way to do it, but a good flash out means that you're going to be hit by the last one. Quality Player is going to use the shockwave and try and bounce it out, but you don't have the E. Instead, on the top side, we're seeing a chase down thanks to Phoenix Flare, and then some Jolts is able to help get that assist, but it is going to be a 1-for-1 across the map. We'll see who gains more from it.
Yeah, and I mean, Phoenix Flare using that Grand Starfall, one of the things that can really circumvent the vision of Akuma Scimitars, because he's just able to kind of appear at a certain location as Pantheon. So really want to see him use that strategy more often. The vision from Zhao PP and Kraydog has been absolutely immaculate in being able to track where this Pantheon is, but now that you have this tool to be able to dodge all of that, you really got to make the most of it while you still can, while Pantheon is still considered to be more of a carry jungler, because later down the line, he is going to fall off. Phoenix Flare is going to be resorted to more of a stun bot, so you as Pantheon are on a timer, and you want to make the most of it.
At the current moment, you are comfortable with the news that you kind of helped out that top lane. Keep in mind, saying Junie has opted for a much harder scaling. You went for the Colt early, still sitting with about 46 stacks left on it, trying to clear it out. Now down to 44, which is good. You're seeing us, you're CSing up as well as possible. Dragon will be up in about 50 seconds though, and that one's going to be an Infernal one to really play for. This is a heavy camp onto the mid lane though, just like a Victor. Sometimes an Orianna just has no way out.
Yep, so Quality Player going to go down again. No flash, no hope of escaping that. And now, lack of a mid laner there for the Forgotten Spire means no chance of being able to contest those grubs. So it is going to be 3 apiece Forgotten Spire. Dragon not up yet. Going to be another 20 seconds before that Infernal spawns means that they aren't immediately able to respond with a play of their own. And so it will give time for Akuma's members to potentially go for a reset, regroup around this bot side, and challenge for this next objective, which will definitely put a dent in the Forgotten Spire's ability to scale if they can get that.
Well, not just that, the Forgotten Spires have actually been shut down yet again in that same sense. You take a look, the grubs were just taken by Akuma Scimitars, meaning they are now just one away from the boots yet again. Well, I believe the Forgotten Spire actually got it last time, but somehow much more comfortable for their own. So they wish to play for the dragon, which is an Infernal. It is a very, I would say, fairly contested dragon. You don't want to get it up for free. So for the Forgotten Spire, you have identified that, hey, we didn't get the other grubs. Now we're going to have to play for this dragon, and things can get very, very messy if you are not careful.
And this is kind of where the value in Gangplank comes in, right? Because not only do you have the scaling, but you also have that cannon barrage, right? You're going to be able to throw that down if a fight does transpire and participate for your team. And not only will the damage be laid down, but the slows from that ultimate as well will give a huge opening for Kraydog or potentially Zhao PP to get on to some key members of the Forgotten Spire and really scatter them in this team fight. So I feel like the fear of that ultimate, the fact that you don't have a ton of vision around this bot side river, is just going to mean giving up this dragon, which is not good for the Forgotten Spire, because not only do you give it up, but you can't respond with anything, right? You do have that ultimate, so maybe a gank onto Sangjuni is inevitable.
Oh, this just feels like a good slice and dice. I don't think Sangjuni can run it away. You go ahead and get bopped up. That's going to be gifted over to quality player as well, as Dragon did go down, so that is going to be boots upgraded for Akuma Scimitars. But what a gracious top laner Jolts is to gift that kill over to the mid laner who has been kind of getting camped.
And now I'm kind of interested to see what Jolts does with this, right? He's got the 3 grubs. Sangjuni doesn't have teleport, so you could potentially look to take this tower. And I think Akuma are also aware of this. They're sending Zhao PP to the bot side to maybe race for that first turret. And I don't know if they're going to get it. I think that this is just a battle of getting that first tower.
I think with the first tower being taken quite low, though, it is going to be over to Jolts, as once again they are leading the charge with their aggressiveness in the top lane. Last time it was against the Nard, this time it's against the GP. And honestly, Sangjuni, the fact that you're about 15 minutes in and still haven't completed that cold does start to kind of breathe down your neck a little bit in this factor. So you have completed the Triforce, which is great. That is going to help you out, but you're still no boots in, meaning if you reach it about midway of the lane, I feel like Jolts is going to just straight up annihilate you.
Grand Starfall, I think, is coming through.
That's going to be a call down. Great charm going in there as Kraydog immediately negates that, plus the Cannon Barrage and Arcane Barrage as well. We mentioned this off-screen utility that can come in, and Akuma Scimitar is kind of demonstrating it there.
Yeah, for sure. It's really, really hard for the Pantheon to get on top of so many of these members, not just because the Rakan will always be sticking with this Varus and, you know, later down the line, this Xerath, but it's also just because, you know, the utility, like you said, from that Cannon Barrage, from that Arcane Barrage, from, you know, just any barrage in general, I guess, if we're going to be, you know, trying to line up this word, makes it so difficult for you to keep on top of them, right? Sticking on top of them, or, you know, finding your way on top of them is one thing. Staying there, that's another thing entirely. And I feel like Akuma's comp makes that very difficult / damn near impossible. So it's really going to be up to the Forgotten Spire to find other creative ways, really look for picks. And you do have a Pantheon, so that is an option, but it is going to be a tough task with how well Akuma have been boarding this map and how much they have been on top of Vision.
Right now, the Vision has identified that the Herald has been started up. It is going to be a little bit of a dude inside as a sapling gives way, but unfortunately you're a little bit too late to it. So a good smite down means it is going to be Herald granted over to Phoenix Flare, and we'll see if they get to do a little bit more with it. Plant does get blossomed out. It is going to read 1 or 2 wards, but nothing more. And Jolts can't stay in the top lane. So for the Herald's take, actually 2 towers are taken in total as Akuma Scimitars go ahead and start breaking down these lanes.
Yep, they're just trying to push the lanes up further, trying to further their influence over the map. And now they're pushed into mid as Arcadius. Oh my god, the damage!
Jeez. brutal stuff here. Arcadius, who has been punished a majority share of the game, just doesn't have any freedom to play. It really feels like mid lane is about to go down here, and it feels like Margin is really coming into their own. As we mentioned in game one, did not have the greatest of times, now being gifted the opportunity to take care of quite honestly some of these immobile carries.
And I mean, just look at Sanjuni on the top side of the map too. He's pushing in the top lane. Akuma are just completely dominating this part of the map. They've got vision, they've got the poke. This is what makes these long range comps so strong, because you know, you walk up, and we saw what happened with Arcadius, right? You go up too far and you get taken down. It doesn't matter what sums you have. If you aren't able to dodge out on that damage, you just get put in the ground. So Akuma playing this poke comp to perfection, sieging the inners 18 minutes in, and Kite forced to flash away from that shockwave.
That one kind of hurts, and right now we're starting to see Akuma Scimitars also kind of have it breathing down their neck, the same situation that occurred back in game number one. However, this is going to be chased in. Great quickness, zoning in. No time to pop the shield. As soon as Slayer tries to dance away, is going to drop the ignite and dances away from the Q.
Wow, he's alive.
Infernum is going to be dropped down on top, so it does delay any further fight. So Akuma Scimitars can't bring any other kills. For as much as they tried to engage, they weren't able to get too much, but they have got the HP lead, meaning this dragon might be theirs.
And some crucial ultimates were used in that exchange as well, right ahead of this Drake. So you won't have the twisted advance here for Zhao PP. You won't have the quickness from the Rakan, and you won't have the cannon brush from the Gangplank. You know, tangentially, the Shockwave is still on cooldown. So both of these teams lacking in that ultimates department, but still wanting to fight for this Drake orbital.
It's going to be a weird fight. Jolts is not that strong right now. Also quite weak. 8
So
up
low.
that sapling. Yeah, I don't like what they're doing here.
I don't
And
like
Zhao
this.
might be looking for an engagement. Arcadius is also taking quite low. And at this point, the Arcane Barrage has already done its work. So,
Yeah.
little bit of pushing back out. Akuma Scimitar saying, yeah, you're not going to get this much freedom. Pak eating an arrow. And that should mean this is going to be real easy, because Jolts has already gone back towards the base. So that means Dragon will be in free pickings for Akuma Scimitars as they'll put themselves on Soul Point.
You can see Forgotten Spire maybe trying to find entrance into this bot side river, but it is far too little. It is far too late. Soul Point there for Akuma. And they are just hitting them with the same sauces. Game one is, oh my god,
Whoa! Fenix trying to go for it. That's a rush backwards. So you're able to get some extra damage, but you don't go over the wall. So it means just about everyone gets away. Judy is barely alive. So is Kraydog. And that is the Forgotten Spire going, we launched everything and couldn't get a single dang thing.
Not one kill goes their way. They get the blue buff, but that's the only advantage they'll find. That has got to be a tilting exchange, because it looked so good. Grand Starfall from Phoenix Flare into the block from his E, you know, negating so much of that damage. And then from the top rope, the Shockwave comes in, but not a single kill is found. And the Forgotten Spire not able to get that dragon. So Akuma are now putting the Forgotten Spire on a timer. It's shades of game one, but in reverse, Orbital.
I mean, this is what we talked about, though. For their composition, they really did need to get a good start off. And granted, they didn't have an immaculate one. I mean, we're still waiting for Saint Juni to really come alive. They do have 2 items, looking at probably a 3rd build-up here. But it's still amazing what they're able to do. They want to harness this energy and really push in, as that's going to be an arrow and a launch. Arcadius should be able to dance their way out of this one. It's no CC behind it, so it's a little bit harder to hit the Arcane Barrage, but it's enough to force that Arcadius away for this jungle invade that Akuma Scimitars wants to clear out.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, not only is it hard to clear out the vision, but doing so probably leaves you susceptible to all of these saplings. Zhao PP has really been making the most of those little obnoxious things, because it feels so difficult, it feels so consequential to clear out vision because of the slows, the damage. The Leandry's now coming through means that, you know, you could take a fair chunk of health off of some of these, you know, more squishy targets on the Forgotten Spire. And so, you know, even so much of a menial task as clearing out wards becomes kind of a horror game for them. And I think because of that, they're just going to say, all right, well, let's go for this Otacon. Let's force them to walk to us. They're going to have to go through literal fire in order to do so. And we're so strong at this point that we think we can force their hand.
Not just force their hand, maybe force the Otacon as well, which would be wild to try and fight for it. Jolts with the TP on the bot side, but I think this is more started up in a helpful venture. You can see AKM just going, okay, maybe we don't actually want to do this, but LPP say maybe we found him as quality, try to run away, but unfortunately you are stuck in that pit, no way to leave, and that is the destructive power that AKM can unleash.
Yep, they baited him in, they knocked him down, and now they're right back on to the Otacon. I like this move how from the Forgotten Spire, though. They're clearing out mid, they're forcing Akuma to respond to them. It's actually going to be enough to get them off of that objective, and now Seongjuni might be in trouble.
This is going to be that chance again. Seongjuni has been kind of that weak side link, just like Arcadius might have been too. That's a free kill, but what are you going to get from it? That's the big question. The wave is so far pushed back that it looks like PP is going to try and route them, but I don't think he ran into the right person. It's going to be a little bit of catch. Arrow goes out, lands on Arcadius, but you go into the back line. Now comes a wave out, and it lands on multiple. Jolt's going to run straight to the front line. That's a moonfall though, missing, but it doesn't matter as that's a shutdown handed to Arcadius, and Arcadius desperately needs that. And you have the Gravitum, so roots Kraydog as well. Kite just barely gets away, but Quality runs in with the orb and shuts them down. Now flash over the wall as Margin tries to run away, but guess what? Quality says, you might have punished me the entire time, but I will punish you. Ain't no way a Xerath can get away with this one, and it's a shutdown again, granted to Arcadius.
And Arcadius suddenly from 0-3 to 2-3, the Forgotten Spire, they find their moment and they capitalize off of it. Orbital, it was an overforce from Akuma, the teleport from Quality to give them much needed reinforcements, and just like that, they are in control of the gold. They might find themselves in control of the game. The Dragon gonna be up in about 40 seconds here. That'll be the real test, but they have equalized the state of this second match.
I cannot believe this is now the second time TFS have basically come away with a team fight victory out of nowhere, and it's on the back of Jolts, who has not gotten a single kill, by the way. The good guy top laner.
Selfless God. Selfless God.
100%. 100. There are no other words for what Jolts is doing right now. And not only that, front letting into a dark bush, just like, yo, let me save my ADC by straight up blind checking this brush.
Yep, and for sure. Now, TFS now, maybe potentially with some newfound confidence, they're going to walk into the river unafraid, undeterred. They wrestle control of that mid lane as well. So now they've got the priority, the ability to walk down here as a team, as five. The Dragon, eyes on the prize for both of these squads, but how is it going to turn out? Orbital, all ultimates are available. Every single tool is up for use.
They're going to try and play for it. This is going to be a little bit wild. Take a look at where Quality is. Quality dropped a ward over the side. Shockwave lands on two, but it's not that much damage. Take a look at how little it does. Jolt's going to try and dive in the back line, but the Dragon is still hitting. A wave goes out. It is going to knock him off that, but that is going to be Jolt's to rise right on in. A little bit of wave, that's going to be this damage. What an Infernum to bounce. It knocks out yet another as Arcadius has gone from 0-3 to 3-3 in less than a minute. Piercing arrow doesn't land as Kite is going to try and run interference with Dragon. Started yet again. Jolt's trying to back away, not give themselves into the damage. Yeah, they really want to go in here. Kite on the edge, but it is a smite away as that is the first Dragon to CFS here in this game.
And they deny away the soul from Akuma, but Phoenix, he might want more. He is going to reel it in for now. Doesn't want to take a chance. And really, it got to give props over to Quality player. That Shockwave, it might not have been, you know, the primary engage, but it chunked out the backline members. It did its job. It gave Phoenix an opportunity to go in with that Grand Starfall. And really, the key there wasn't the Grand Starfall itself, but it was all of the damage that the Pantheon blocked, right? A lot of that front-loaded combo damage from, you know, Marzian or Kite was completely negated, and it opened up so many opportunities for Arcadius, for Quality to land their own combos, and they were the ones that managed to make use of it. Now, Akuma potentially getting a little desperate. They're going to look for a pick onto this Ori.
I think you're trying to catch Kite there, so it will be a Shockwave expended and almost a kill back. So Kraydog, we're starting to see some extra damage come out of Quality, but that was just a rough death to have. Other than that, it's not the worst thing in the world. You go ahead and keep pushing. Otacon might be started up here, but I don't think they really want to test it. Yes, they will actually start it up.
This is a desperation play if ever I've seen one. Fenix is in the area. He doesn't have the Grand Starfall, and this is also a Voracious, so you kind of have to mess with the spacing a bit in order to take it. The Forgotten Spire, no inkling of attention paid toward that topside objective. I feel like you have to know what is happening on this top side, but maybe they just don't care. I mean, there isn't a dragon spawning for another 3 minutes, so the buff from the Voracious Autocom won't be up by the time that comes through. So maybe they're just saying, you know, we're down a member. They also have got teleports on their solo laners. It's not worth it when we have the game in our hands. So whether or not, you know, the knowledge of that Voracious being taken was there by TFS, I think it is smart to just let it go at the end of the day.
I think this is just one of those moments where I just I sit there and go, yeah, take the permanent over the temporary. You say, hey, we'll wait it out, we're good. But we get the mid tower, and now we get to see TFS. What do they want to do? We can see 220 CS on Arcadius. This is why they spike so heavily in this game, plus the shutdown gold. You're looking at about a 3-item win. You're going for a Bloodthirster next, I believe, and then for quality as well, you're starting to stack up. You already have the Ceres, which we saw do a decent amount of work, but everyone is starting to scale up here where the gold has already turned. So AKM sitting there going, okay, this is getting out of hand. What do we need to do? As Kraydog realizes they have to dive out, Shockwave whiffs, but it's a good attempt on Kraydog's life.
Yeah, and Baron is up, but likely not the primary target for either of these teams. Now it just becomes a game of controlling vision. We're in a bit of a lull state, I would say, for the next minute or so, just really wanting to gain control of these waves. And Arcadius in particular on this Aphelios, such a well-played comeback from him on this Aphelios, starting out 0-3, now 3-3, closing in on that third item, which really is one of the biggest spikes for any marksman. Really, I feel like, you know, Aphelios, especially if you know what you're doing on him, can make use of that extra item damage better than most AD carries. So it's going to be especially brutal on a champion like him. And I do think Akuma, now the question becomes, who do you focus, right? Because you've got this very fed Pantheon, you've got this pretty fed Orianna, and you've also got to deal with the fed Aphelios. There are 3 key targets for Akuma, but they might not have time to take all 3 of them down. So the question becomes, who are they selecting as their target?
And honestly, it also leans into the factor of, is who Akuma is picking the same as what TFS thinks is the strongest on the board? Because if you lose Arcadius and you say, hey, that's all it is, that might be it. But Jolt's realizing that, hey, I don't really want to deal with the multi-array of damage coming down on the side. This might be a chase in as Arcadius is trying to flash out, but Hawk having to flash away. This is going to be a problem as multiple shots coming out.
Ouch!
That's just a raw damage. And that is what you want to see out of Xerath. We mentioned the squishies are doing so much. Arcadius gets sniped down with 3 shots in a row.
Yeah, I mean, Arcadius down, not able to join the fight. The Dragon going to be up here in about 20 seconds. And Akuma, it doesn't even look like they care about the Drake. They're going to go straight to the Baron. Phoenix Flare is still up. There are still 4 members of the Forgotten Spire on the map. So a contest is possible, especially with how much damage the Baron does do. Kite is already at half HP.
They're rushing. They're just going to try and step up, and this Baron is always one of the best. That's going to be a call in. Smite doesn't land, but you might get the extra kills. Waves come out yet again, and a double bubble brings yet doom once more. Zhao PP is able to flash over the wall, and I don't think Jolt is going to follow through. You get sunned out, but you're so tanky that you don't care. Meanwhile, the rest of the team for TFS says, cool, fine. You got Baron, we got 1. We're going to chase for the Dragon.
Yeah, and I bet Phoenix Flare is punching air there because it wasn't actually a smite there from Zhao PP. The Maokai didn't go for the smite. Phoenix Flare, I believe that Baron was like 4 HP, and Kite managed to claim it. So it is going to be the Nasher for 4 members of the Akuma Scimitars, so they'll be happy about that one. But the Baron, you know, isn't going to be joined by the Soul the next time around. The Forgotten Spire still stalling out that big late game buff for Akuma, getting it for themselves. And still, I feel like the longer this game goes on, the easier it is going to be for the Forgotten Spire to scale up a lot of their carries. As Jolts is just going to walk this one off. Just a minor scratch for this Cassante.
Yeah, I mean, you even expended that Chain of Corruption, and now you got Grey Dog in a really weird
so
spot. But Jolt's is actually taking quite low. Shall be gonna try and route them, but a good flash away means this tower is gonna go down. But a call in from the wave means everyone is able to disengage, but the damage has been done. Shockwave lands, Kite drawn into the mix, but remember, they do have that that little extra in the back pocket, that night
Vow.
shield, I guess. I don't know what else to call it because my brain just forgot the item.
Or no, not Knight's Vow, Edge of Night.
Edge of Night, that's it. Too many nights in the world. But this is going to be a little bit of a route in as Phoenix Flare says, hey, that's a tree, and I'm going to chop it down. And yet again, Zhao PP gets caught.
I mean, that's the magic of having all of that armor pen as this Pantheon. You've got the Sundered Sky, you've got the Black Cleaver, you're ripping off all that armor from the Maokai, and you're leaving him to the Wolves, or in this case, Arcadius as well, the Aphelios with 3 items under his pocket, really starting to deal a ton of damage in these fights. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to really look for much more. You can see that both Jolts and Quality Player are pushing the side lane, so they're applying pressure around the map, forcing Akuma to respond to them. And this will be really good, but it feels like the timing just isn't there for them to really get anything objective-wise. It's Quality, fancy feet, but dodge this.
It's Quality is just like, please stop, for the love of God. I know I have no mana. Oh my God, no. Oh my God. Minions, they chasing. Oh my God, Kite. He still got it. That is Phoenix to come in with the spear. The damage works wonders, and it is TFS to reap the benefits of a 1-for-1.
I absolutely love the unexpected reaction from both of us because we can't see the Grand Starfall's overlay. We cannot see that spear landing with the red dot when you usually see it in game. So that was a complete surprise that Phoenix managed to land that. But that is a major flex from the Pantheon. It's a 1-for-1, and we saw just how much damage Quality Player is able to output on this Orianna, despite only having 3 kills and not even having 3 items. It is so dangerous for Kite to play this game because there are so many threats on the Forgotten Spire that have scaled up and can just absolutely one-shot him.
Why is this happening, Quax? I beg of you again to tell me what is going on that Phoenix Flare, this 5-0-5 Pantheon, is guiding this fight, and Quality is just playing bait at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I think Quality, and you know, you look at the Orianna, you don't even really need Quality to be super fed on this pick, right? You just need him to land those big shockwaves. It's now Arcadius. Okay, let's see the fancy footwork. Oh my
Good
God.
dodges. You still have the flash. You still have the flash, which is a problem.
Yep, so key target opened up here for Akuma in the next team fight, which will likely be, you know, in a little less than 90 seconds, that dragon coming up. And you can see Akuma applying a lot of pressure around this side of the map. Quality has to really recall soon. He doesn't have teleport on this Orianna, so he needs to be with his team, able to walk up with the rest of them in order for them to fight this next Drake and continue denying that soul from Akuma. And now, you know, the question becomes, who is Akuma going to send in order to respond to this wave? Marzian does have the teleport, so I would imagine it's going to be them. But Akuma, again, just utilizing this range, utilizing this AoE, utilizing this damage to really further their control over a lot of these key zones. It makes it so difficult for the Forgotten Spire to walk up and get vision. A lot of the times when they've won, it's because of that snap decision making, right? Phoenix Flare just goes in, says YOLO. Quality does the same with their Shockwave. It hasn't really been a slow, steady, gradual you know, increase of vision for them. It has been them saying, screw it, we ball. And I think it's going to have to be the same this time around with how dominant AKM have been around the spot side.
Oh, of course, and I think that trigger is going to be pulled here very, very shortly. Jolt's running frontline yet again. Piercing Arrow is able to land, but they're going to dive in the back line, and Margin tries to flash away. Shockwave lands, and they found the combo. The Wombo does the combo. Bubble lands as well, and that is Quality to set up a quality play. 3 gone as AKM lose the fight and might lose the Dragon and then their base as well.
Yup, the Forgotten Spire continue to say YOLO. They go on in. They find Marzian. They combo up the ultimate with the Orianna. The dragon is not long for this world. The death timers are starting to get so long, 37 minutes into the game, so they're going to immediately run toward that Baron orbital. And it was looking like another strong early game from the Akuma Scimitars. They were really putting the gold where they needed it to be. Kite was getting so fed on this Varus, but the late game team fighting, you do not want to deal with the Forgotten Spire at that point in the game. They want to be one of the top teams in the Targon division. They want to be in top form for the playoffs, and they are showing up in this last week.
There is no stopping them, and you have to give credit where credit is due. Jolts led the charge through the entirety of this early game, but Fenix and Quality have both stepped up massively here in the mid game. Jolts once again running interference that might pay with their life, which honestly I think is an okay call to make. However, at this point, maybe you need the tank of your own. Jolts trying to dance away. You fly through the wall. You're still safe. The jolting action lays in damage, and Jolts is like, I'm good. I'm 0-0-10. You ain't gonna change that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing gonna get between Jolts and his perfect score line. And it seems like Akuma, they're not going to get in the way of the Forgotten Spire, and potentially this 2-0, the Baron acquired Soul Point. Now we went from 3 dragons from Akuma and 0 on the Forgotten Spire to 3 apiece for both of these teams, and now 3.5 minutes, that is going to be the end-all be-all fight. But the Forgotten Spire, the way they're pushing up, the way they're grouping in this mid lane, they don't want to wait 3.5 minutes. They want to get this game over with. They want to push Akuma Scimitars down a peg going into playoffs, and they are grouping up in preparation to do so, Orbital.
I love the amount of wards that they're also trying to lay down here. Everyone feels like they've had a pink ward. I think Fenix had 2, or Quality had 2. Fenix had 1, and Pac had another. So they're just trying to clear out vision, make sure there is no information for AKM. It is going to be a front-to-back fight, which honestly leans into Jolts so much. However, with the damage output, you have to respect that we're 39 minutes into this game. AKM are filling out their inventories just as well. Namely, we're looking at Margin, who is sitting on 3.5, about 4. I think if you get another about 300 in the pocket, and then you can go ahead and pick up that Rabadon's. Bot side, we're looking at Kite, who has pretty much completed that poke build, is just going for that Manamune at the very end of the day. So everyone on their side on TFS is being immensely respectful, which I really like.
Yeah, for sure. They're playing the game slowly but surely. They're slowly taking these zones, and now they have the ability to do that, right? The game for a while was at a pace where if they walked up, they were going to get hit with a massive, arcane barrage, potentially a cannon barrage, and just all the poke from AKM was too much for them to handle. But now, Jolts has been a lot more active with the team. Fenix Flare is super duper tanky, rocking that Stare Axe, so they could tank it up. Let's see Quality, Fancy Feet.
Oh, what a great move, but you wait for the rest of the team. Quality is still alive right now. They are going to bait it out. Kite gets a lot of healing, but Arcadius is going to try and step up. And remember, this is the Aphelios. Aphelios says, I do damage now. What's up? They get a double kill and are going to run this top lane as Kite quickly tries to back, but you might get chased off here. The recalls are not going to be fast enough as TFS look to break the base.
And a Quality player downloading some Michael Jackson moves from the internet. He's gonna have the Fancy Feet moonwalking on all of Akuma Scimitars. He goes down in the end, but the opportunity is there for the Forgotten Spire now. They break the base, they get the inhibitor. They might look for the end here, Orbital.
They're going to give it a missed shot, but Kraydog is going to try and run interference. Great knockback as Arcadius is still getting a lot of heals and shields, and then some. Infernum gun trying to fire away, but again, it's the Pantheon to step up. Fenix Flare says, I am godlike, and then some. Bring me my legendary amount. Double kill at the end, as that is game 2, and the Forgotten Spire will forget their opponent and make their way into the top 2.
They might be named the Forgotten Spire, Orbital, but you better remember the name, remember the players, and remember this series. Akuma Scimitars tied in series score, but outmatched in gameplay in every sense of the word. The Forgotten Spire came here to play. They came here to dominate. And dominate they did. Now, the big question is, where are these guys going to place amongst the rest of the Targonian teams in that division? Because, again, as we said at the start of this broadcast, the Forgotten Spire would be second if High Alert Nightmares were to take a win over their series this week because they lost that head-to-head. But hey, second is better than third, and that's where Akuma Scimitars are relegated to.
100%. And it's not, I mean, there could be some upsets, there could be some changes, but I want to point out this goal difference here. Yet again, Akuma Scimitars start off strong in the early game, and yet it feels like their team fighting prowess just kind of falls apart at the end. And if you are someone that is trying to coach Akuma Scimitars, if you're trying to say, hey, what can you improve on, what would you tell them to do considering the state of this series?
I mean, a lot of people are going to point toward that early game, right? And I do certainly think that, you know, Akuma were able to really capitalize off of that early game. But I do think it just kind of came to, they were overforcing a ton of fights, right? I'm looking at that top lane play that Quality was able to teleport into, right? They really overchased and they kind of bit off more than they could chew. I think they were under the impression that they were stronger than they actually are. And so as a result, they got knocked down a peg. So the Forgotten Spire, you know, a ton of credit to them for capitalizing off of the mistakes of Akuma Scimitars, but it certainly felt like in both games, Akuma thought they were stronger than they actually were. They got struck down. They didn't have the numbers, and, you know, numbers advantage was what prevailed in a lot of those exchanges that turned those games around.
100%. I would lean back into you on that one because it is very, very true. These fights, I mean, the Forgotten Spire looked amazing in the mid to late game. They looked very controlled. They looked very poised. And Akuma Scimitars, I just don't think were up for the task at the end of the day. But they still fought very valiantly, and they were spicy games. This is one of those 2-0 series that we say, please go back and rewatch it because it was 100% a close 2-0. But of course, that'll be it for us here at the ADL, as next week I believe will be qualifiers depending on some of the matchups. We'll take a look at that, or it'll be playoffs one way or another, and that will be exciting all on its own. Make sure to keep track of all the socials for the Aegis esports side of things because there will be more matches throughout the entirety of the week. I know Champions League as well as some others will be running tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the amazing times, so make sure to go check those out. But here tonight we want to say thank you so much for tuning in to the Defenders League. My name is Orbital. With me has been the most amazing Quacks. We had Caddy on the production, and again, shout out to our amazing sponsors, Zen Market, who once again made this all possible. We thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great night.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。